Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of September 22nd to the 28th, 2024, where I take a look at a couple of stories that kind of caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion on them. And we got 4 stories to cover for this week, including Sony actually having their state of play. I want to give my take of what I did and didn't like about it, though. We do want to talk about basically situations surrounding Ubisoft, ranging from Assassin's Creed Shadowgame's delayed to apparently some not so great things from worker strike to possibly an investigation into them as well. Some more rumors that started to pop up, including basically that the next generation of the Xbox console could be that the rumors about the Xbox handheld could be coming more and more true. And finally, we have reports about basically the amount of money that was cost to make the flop Concord and some of the issues that started to pop up in terms of ranging from staff to really raising a lot of questions about this game in general. And if you're interested in where I got the source of these information, links will be in the description of this video down below, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And of course, the timestamps will also be in the description and at the beginning of this video, assuming you are, at the beginning of the video and all. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. The first one has to do with that this week saw the anniversary of Nintendo. It's 135 years old, so happy birthday to Nintendo in general. It's pretty amazing how far they went from being, I think this card manufacturer in Japan to doing different things, from even to toys to even love hotels to where they are right now with in the video game industry, especially with their latest system, the Switch, and we're still waiting to hear when they start talking about the Switch 2 and all. But happy 135th birthday to Nintendo. We also learned that Platinum has gained the rights to the wonderful 101. For those who are not familiar, at one point, Nintendo did own the rights. They did publish the game. This was back during the Wii U. And then, of course, when they did a Kickstarter to do Wonderful 101, Nintendo allowed them to bring it to other systems, but they're not going to be funding that game and everything like that. But it does seem to indicate that they finally got the rights to the Wonderful 101. And it does make you kind of wonder, could we see something like, say, Astro Chain maybe get picked up by Platinum, since they also developed that game, although time will tell if that does or doesn't happen, so we'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, the Wonderful 101 has gone back to Platinum and all. We also learned that Unicorn Overlord has supposedly passed the 1 million mark in terms of sales for that game, which I think that is very good and everything like that. I think that it was really neat to see that game do very well. I do enjoy it myself, especially playing it on the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. And it will be very interesting to see if a sequel does happen to that game or not. So we'll have to wait and see if something like that does happen. But in either case, Unicorn Overlord certainly has become a success for both Atlas and Vanillaware. We also learned that supposedly Capcom has asked fans if they want to see a remake or a remaster of Dino Crisis and Devil May Cry. This has to do with Capcom putting out some surveys and all, which is kind of interesting because supposedly Dino Crisis is available to, I think, purchase on the PlayStation Store, but it's the original PlayStation version, not any remaster or remake or anything like that. So it will be very interesting to see if Dino Crisis does get the remake treatment. I think it should. I mean, look how well Resident Evil 2 and 3 and 4 did. So I really think Dino Crisis is long overdue for a remake, at least in my book and everything like that. And finally, last but not least, though, we are learning that supposedly Sony and the developers of Shift Up, the folks who made the game Stellar Blade, are being sued because of the name, I believe, Stellar Blade or anything like that, from a company outside in Louisiana, from what I understand. It remains to be seen how far this lawsuit may or may not go, so we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere, but time will ultimately tell. And in the movie and TV show base of the Quick My 2 Cent, Two trailers were shown off this week. The first one was Marvel's Thunderbolt trailer, and I will say I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing with that one, though. I especially like how they used a different take on the Pixels song, Where Is My Mind, and everything like that. I'm very curious to see how this one is going to play out. I am getting somewhat of a Winter Soldier vibe to it, though, Captain America Winter Soldier, so we'll see how this one does. I am the one I'll be keeping an eye out for. And of course, we had a Season 2 teaser for the second season of The Last of Us for HBO Max. Definitely looking forward to that. Sadly, it won't be out until next year, although supposedly the claim is that since this will be based on The Last of Us Part 2, that supposedly it will be spread out over different seasons and everything. So we might be taking a different approach than how it is with Season 1, which focuses mostly, the majority of it on the first game and everything like that. We also learned that supposedly there is an interesting rumor that at one point, though, during the Knuckles spinoff, that the Chaos, if I'm saying their name correctly, the detective agency, these are characters that have made appearances in numerous Sonic games and all, was supposed to be originally in the Knuckles spinoff, but supposedly they didn't really show up or anything like that. But they may show up in, I believe, in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which will be out in December. And there may be plans for a spinoff very similar to what we saw with the Knuckles and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that one happens, if it does. And finally, last but not least, this is unfortunately some sad news, is that actress Maggie Smith has passed away at the age of 89 and all. And although her career spans through different films and everything like that, most might remember her for seeing in different films, whether it's Sister Act 1 and 2 with Whoopi Goldberg, to being, I think, in Steven Spielberg's Hook, or, Disney's The Secret Garden. She's also famous for being on the show Downton Abbey, and also I think she played one of the main characters from the Harry Potter franchise and everything like that. But in either case, though, it's very unfortunate that she passed away, and I will say that my heart goes out to her friends, her family, and of course fans who enjoyed whatever Maggie Smith did, whether it's on Broadway or in films and everything like that, though. So my heart goes out to those folks who cared about her and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Concord and some, well, not so great information coming about in terms of what happened behind the scenes with that game. Now, obviously, we all saw what happened with Concord. It was a game that was really hyped by Sony to really get it out there, to point out that this is the future of where the company is headed. And after only being out, I think it was a week or two, they pulled the game offline automatically, right and started giving refunds to a lot of folks. And I think as more and more information comes out, it raises, I will say, a lot of questions about some of the decision making at Sony in terms of why they chose to go down this path and what are they going to do going forward and everything like that. So several articles have come out about this, though. A couple of the ones that caught my attention were this one from Video Game Chronicles that reads that pointing out how the game basically reportedly cost about $400 million to develop. They said this was according to a PlayStation podcast, Scared Symbol, which claimed that the game, which was recently taken offline by PlayStation after just 2 weeks on sales, was referred to as the future of PlayStation. And basically had one of the person who talked about this, saying basically it was referred to the future PlayStation with Star Wars potential and development culture of toxic positivity, halting any negative feedback, though. It says, citing three sources familiar with the move, the publication said Else was emotional when initially speaking to staff after the game's launch, when it was clear the game was going to be a major failure. Ryan deeply believed that in that project and bringing players together, through the joy in it, one former developer told Kotaku, regardless of there being things that could have been done differently throughout the development, he's a good human and full of heart, though. and basically pulling the game offline came as it was reported that PS5 PC game may have sold as basically as few as 25,000 copies. Meanwhile, over at GameIndustry.biz, they mentioned how one of the developers, one of the Concord directors, Ryan Else, is stepping down and will be taking supposedly to a more supportive role within the studio. But there are now claims that there are people who are afraid that there is fear of layoffs and everything like that. And finally, it was also mentioned in WCCF Tech, which brings up similar stuff with basically with what Video Game Chronicle says, but it points out that supposedly this was seen in Herman Hutz's baby, which basically points to, one of the new CEOs over at Sony that took over, when Jim Ryan stepped down, which all this information is not looking good for basically Sony and the developers as well, though. I mean, I think in the age where we see a lot of these companies pushing the live service avenue and everything like that, it started to become really a turnoff for a lot of gamers and everything like that. I mean, yes, you've had some success like Helldivers 2, but you've also had some big flops and failures. I mean, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, Babylon Fall. It's just that the argument is that it's been oversaturated, that it's making it very difficult for people to jump in and everything like that. And the report about, not having any negativity, toxic positivity and everything like that, yeah, I mean, this is going to put Sony in a tough spot. They blew $400 million, if this is accurate though, on this game, and now they got to figure out what they're going to do with Firewall Studios. And the sad thing is that I think a lot of the employees are going to be impacted by this, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that go, which is unfortunate. And folks like Herman Hultz, if I'm saying his name correctly, the one who championed this game, more than likely is not going to be impacted on that. And that's sad, because he's the one that pushed this. He's the one that wanted to get this game out there, and seeing this big of a flop, though, I do think he should be punished as well, because this was this thing that he was pushing out for the future of PlayStation, and Sony's really going to have to rethink their strategy going forward and everything like that. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what direction Sony goes, because I mean, if this flopped, I can't imagine any other live service they're going to put out is going to be any better other than the ones that seem to be doing well. Again, Helldivers 2 and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, if this report's correct, it looks like there were a lot of bad things behind the scene with Concord, though, and I do feel sorry for the development team. I really do, because I think, unfortunately, there is a very good chance they're going to suffer because of the action the higher-ups made on it, including this new CEO of Sony and everything. So overall, not great news when you hear about some of the backstory and some of the drama behind Concord and everything like that. And Sony's going to have to figure out what their future is, though, because I think it will be very difficult for them to try to push. Like I said, I think it's going to be difficult for them to push another live service game out there, especially if we've seen more flops like Concord and everything like that. And I really think Sony should go back and look at basically some of their back catalogs. Like, why not bring back Killzone or Resistance, or maybe look at bringing back Dark Cloud or Rogue Galaxy and everything. So there are plenty of games they could look back and help bring back to the modern age and everything like that. But something tells me that's unlikely to happen or something. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with more information that seems to be coming out in regards of this rumored Xbox handheld and everything like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at, apparently it seems to be more information has come out about this so-called rumored Xbox handheld and everything like that. Now, this one has been rumored for quite some time, and many have been very curious to see if Microsoft will take a stab at basically doing like a handheld and everything like that. We know Nintendo, especially with their history of handhelds, including the Switch, which is a console handheld hybrid. Sony tried to take a tap with it with the PSP and the PS Vita, although I think the PSP, was, in my view, more successful than the Vita ever was. So, but since then, they've sort of shied away with it. I mean, we have like the PlayStation Portal, but I'm not really sure I 100% would call that like a handheld or on the same scale as like the Switches and everything like that. But for Microsoft, they pretty much at this point have kind of shied away from doing like handhelds, at least up to this point, everything like that. Outside of maybe their games appearing on PC, which makes some people wonder if it will pop on like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally and everything like that. Well, new rumors are starting to pop up about even more information, with it being tied to what could be, Xbox's, next generation type of a system. And it seems that more and more, at least somewhat more information is starting to come out, as it does seem to indicate that Microsoft could be leaning towards, a handheld, or at least something close to either like the Steam Deck or even the Switch for that matter. In an article from GameSpot, it reads, quote, though the next generation of Xbox consoles reportedly could include both a console and a handheld. According to Windows Central, Microsoft is taking another two-pronged approach to the Xbox hardware, making it like it did with the Series X and S. The plan is reportedly to have a traditional style successor to the Series X, as well as a handheld gaming option similar to that of the Steam Deck. It's currently unclear what this approach would end up looking like, but if the handheld is anything like the Steam Deck, players will likely be able to play their digital purchases and bounce between the handheld and the console. There's likely won't be a separate ecosystem like the 3DS and Wii U or the Vita and the PS3. There's also the possibility that it could look more like a Switch and have both the console and the handheld's component work together. Separately from this report, Microsoft also confirmed that it has plans to celebrate the Xbox and Halo 25th anniversary, which are landing in 2026. This current generation has been strange. Developers are still making games for last generation consoles, and the backlash of the PS5 Pro price puts the traditional console generation in an awkward position. It also points out last year documents regarding Xbox mid-gen refresh plans were leaked, aiming for a supposed October 2024 release. Microsoft claims that those plans were outdated, but still indeed release a digital-only Xbox Series X. Now, the idea of Microsoft doing a Xbox, handheld, I wouldn't be completely against it if they approach it the right way and it's something that can click with audience and everything like that. And since we're seeing somewhat of a resurgence with handhelds to a certain degree. I mean, we've had them, with like the Game Boy Advance, the 3DS, and everything like that. I think the success of the Nintendo Switch really kind of blew that up even further, especially now that we have stuff like, as I mentioned before, the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck, which are PC handhelds and all. And I do think an Xbox handheld could work if Microsoft executes it the right way. I think they should aim for an approach similar to the Switch. I'm not saying they have to have Joy-Cons or anything like that, but they should aim for a similar approach where it's a console handheld hybrid. I think that would be absolutely great for something like that. But I am curious to see if they do aim for that approach, what would have something that this so-called traditional console, which is one of the things they've been pushing, is this AI feature and everything like that. And I'm curious if that will make its way into the handheld and everything. And I do think that the handheld, if at least according to if what this report is saying is true, should be native and should be able to play games natively. I think streaming could be an option, but I do think at the end of the day it needs to be native and anything like that. So I do think this handheld approach could work for Microsoft if they do it right, and if they can, in a way, learn from the mistakes that Sony did with the PSP and even the Vita to a certain extent, and not treat this system like as an afterthought and all. So time will ultimately tell, and we'll have to wait and see, but I am very curious about this Xbox handheld, and then I'm hoping it is a success, assuming it does happen and all. So overall, the idea of an Xbox handheld for their next system is certainly something that intrigues me, and I am very curious to see what it looks like and everything like that. And if it is true, whether it becomes a success or not remains to be seen, and we'll have to see how well Microsoft advertises it and gets it out there, and if it's enough to click with people or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with Ubisoft, and well, they're not in the best of positions at this time. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation surrounding Ubisoft recently. Now, when it comes to Ubisoft, there are times when they can make great games, and then there are times that they make, let's just say, questionable decisions at best, though. Okay, sometimes the games they put out, like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, to like the Rayman series, or even the Mario plus Rabbids series, though, I do think and also publish South Park, Stick of Truth, and Fractured But Whole. There are times they can make good games, and this year we also saw, with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. But on the other hand, Ubisoft has been known to make several, and let's just say a lot of questionable decisions, ranging from pushing for DRM to live service, to even basically pushing to make all their games open world, when really not every game has to be open world and everything like that. And of course, one of the games that they released, though, based off the Star Wars license, Outlaw, supposedly got off to a bad start and did not sell as well as Ubisoft had thought so. And of course, supposedly what was supposed to come out this year was, of course, Assassin's Creed Shadow, the latest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which takes place in feudal Japan. But there has been some controversy back and forth, putting aside the whole, DEI woke BS that some folks are playing out there. There are those who, at least in the Japanese community, or supposedly weren't happy with some of the decision Ubisoft has made. And so now we have learned that basically that game, along with some issues with Ubisoft, but with Assassin's Creed Shadow, has now been delayed until next year in February. In an article from Verity, it reads that, quote, though, that Assassin's Creed Shadow has been delayed to February 14th, 2025 from its current November 15 release. Game publisher Ubisoft announced the news Wednesday, citing a weak performance for the new title Star Wars Outlaw and lower than expected profits in the current quarter, and the deciding factor in pushing the next installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise, though. According to Ubisoft, they said that, quote, while the game is feature complete, the learnings from the Star Wars Outlaw release led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. This would enable the biggest entry in the franchise to fully deliver on its ambitions, notably by fulfilling the promise of our doing prologue, apologize for not saying that name correctly, adventure, bringing the two very different gameplay style. Additionally, Ubisoft said Assassin's Creed Shadows will be available on Steam on launch day, a break from the company's current strategy, and it will break from Ubisoft's typical season pass model, as all players will be able to enjoy the game at the same time on February 14th, and those who pre-order the game will be guaranteed the first expansion for free. Following the softer than expected sales for Star Wars Outlaws after its August 30th release, Ubisoft said its development teams are currently fully mobilized to swiftly implement a series of updates to polish and improve the player's experience in order to engage a larger audience during the holiday season to position Star Wars Outlaw as stronger long-term performance. Ubisoft said Outlaw will launch on Steam November 21st, though. So basically, though, because of what happened with Star Wars Outlaw, they are basically delaying the game, which on one hand that can be a good thing, but on the other hand, though, it's coming out in February, and there are several games that are coming out, including some big ones like ranging from Evolve, which was supposedly delayed into next year because they wanted to avoid the crowd and everything like that, to Monster Hunter Wild, the next entry in the Monster Hunter series, and many do kind of wonder if that game will overshadow, no pun intended, Assassin's Creed Shadows. So we'll have to wait and see, but clearly, though, Star Wars Outlaw did have an impact on Assassin's Creed Shadows. But that doesn't seem to be the end of basically Ubisoft's trouble, as now it seems that the board in charge of Ubisoft is now launching an investigation into the company's struggle. This is from Insider Gaming. It says, quote, "It has been announced that Ubisoft Executive Committee and Board of Directors will launch an investigation and review the company. The news came via a company financial statement and update, which includes the delay of Assassin's Creed Shadow and the announcement of Star Wars Outlaw underperforming," the statement reads. "In light of the recent challenge, we acknowledge the need for greater efficacy while delighting players. As a result, beyond the first important short-term action undertaking, the Executive Committee, under the supervision of the Board of Directors, is launching a review aimed at further improving our execution, notably in this player-centric approach, and accelerating our strategic partnership towards a higher performance model to the benefit of the stakeholders and shareholders. Finally, let me address some of the polarizing comments around Ubisoft lately. I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment-first company, creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy." As of the time of this writing, Ubisoft stock has decreased to 11.42 euros, and it has dramatically fallen these past few months. Last month, Insider Gamers reported with XFI was at risk of losing a much-needed post-launch support after joining player numbers and following the release of a mid-Star Wars Outlaws launch. Ubisoft stock prices fell to a near 10-year low. Speaking with current and former Ubisoft employees, I am told that the move was inevitable and the writing was on the wall, as many Ubisoft studios have been struggling due to poor management. While I have reported on some of these issues in the past, Insider Gaming will have more in-depth reports in the coming weeks or days. So obviously it sounds like that the people in charge are going to try to overhaul the company, because clearly something is not working and everything like that. Whether that becomes a success or not, or whether that will lead to any layoffs or closures of any studios or not, that remains to be seen at this time, although it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. If there is one area that Ubisoft could do at the very least, is maybe ease up and not make every game they do is open world and everything like that. I'm not saying an open world game can't work. It can, but do we really need every game to follow the same open world formula and everything like that? Some could be linear and still be enjoyable and fun and everything like that. So I think that's one area Ubisoft can really do and all, but I also think some of it could be shake up with the management and shake up with some of the leadership at Ubisoft as well, because they've been making some pretty bad decisions in general. So I think that could see some shakeups right there. So time will ultimately tell if Ubisoft can reverse this downward spiral that they've been going into lately, but right now it's clear something is going to have to change, although it would not surprise me if we see some layoffs and everything like that, which, while unfortunate, wouldn't surprise me at all. So overall, obviously Ubisoft is not in the best of positions at this time, but it's clear something is going to have to change at Ubisoft and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with my take on the Sony State of Play that happened this week. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, I'm going to be taking a look, or my take on this week's Sony State of Play. Now, this one was kind of rumored for a bit though, and many were kind of curious to see if this State of Play was going to happen or not, and obviously it did. And after watching what was I think around 40 minutes, or I think 30, I'm not 100% sure though, I will say, when compared to past Sony State of Play, excuse me, I would say this was certainly one of their better ones that they have done. So I do think it is certainly better than some of the past Sony State of Play. but I would stop short as being as good as, say, like, you know, the Xbox Showcase in June, along with the Nintendo Direct in June, which I really thought those were really good showcase and everything like that, though. So, yeah, I mean, this one's definitely, I will admit, was kind of improvements for some of the past, you know, like Sony State of Play and everything. So I'm going to break it down into what I like and what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure about, though. In terms of what I like, though, I will say one of the new games they showed off was the Midnight Walker, and it was sort of like, looks like this clay first-person view type of a game, though. And what's also interesting, it's going to come to the PS5 and the PSVR 2. So at least if you don't have a VR set, you can get it for the PS5. But I will say that game looks really interesting and all, and I'm very curious to see how that is going to play and everything. So that one definitely is on my radar. Other things they showed was new content for Astro Bot and everything like that, which is certainly nice. I mean, I am enjoying that game and everything like that, and it is one I would definitely... Well, I definitely would recommend to those who are into platforming games and everything like that, but definitely some nice, it's nice to see that there's more content coming to Astro Bot and all. They also did a release date for Lego Horizon Adventure, which will be out on November 14th, and that's for the Switch version as well, which is still pretty amazing they're bringing that to the Nintendo Switch, although a little surprised they're not bringing it to Xbox and everything like that, but I am very curious to see how this will run, especially on the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. So that's one I'll be keeping an eye out for. The two big ones, these are like remasters and everything like that were announced during this State of Play that I thought was really neat, was the confirmation that Legacy 1 and 2 of the Soul Reaver Remastered were announced. It will be out on December 10th, though, and we know that it's coming to the Xbox systems and the Nintendo Switch as well, so that is certainly nice. It's being worked on by Asperity, which can be mixed depending on who you're asking and all, though. I'm not sure about a physical version, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see this pop up from Limited Run and everything like that. So definitely nice to see that the rumors turn out to be true. Maybe this will open the door to see the Legacy of Kain and Soul Reavers seeing a revival and everything like that. We also learned, and this one kind of surprised some folks, was a remaster of the Lunar series collection has also been announced. It will be out, I think, sometime next year, and that one also is coming to the Xbox and the Nintendo Switch as well. So that certainly is nice to see this, supposedly this classic RPG series come back and everything. I remember reading about it, but never got a chance to play it at the time. So the CD games being revived certainly is nice, and I definitely will be keeping an eye out for supposedly the Nintendo Switch version, at least in my book. But it's nice that all three platforms are going to be getting it and everything like that. And I'm also curious to see when a physical version will happen. And finally, I thought this was a great way that they closed out basically the State of Play, is that we now have a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima Ghost of Yotai, if I'm saying the name correctly, though. This one looked really neat, and I did enjoy Ghost of Tsushima, so this one is definitely on my radar next year for the PS5 and everything like that. So I thought that this was a really good way to close out the State of Play and everything like that. So really looking forward to the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. But as far as what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure, I will say that some of the stuff was with Stellar Blade and everything. We are getting like new photo mode and everything like that, which is okay. But what was interesting that they showed off was a Nier Automata crossover DLC for Stellar Blade, which part of me is sort of excited for this, but part of me wants to get more information about what this DLC will be for Stellar Blade. Is this going to be new content, like, new areas to explore or anything like that? Or is this just nothing but just cosmetics and everything like that? Which, if it's cosmetics, it's like, if it's free, that's fine, but I'm not going to spend the money for it. If it's new, like levels and everything like that, new story and everything like that, I might be more tempting to buy that and everything like that. But for right now, I don't think we have a whole lot of information at this time. The other thing is that what we showed is the Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which this has been one of the criticisms we've seen for the PS5 this generation, is that Sony really has doubled down on remastering some of the games, though, but some of them seem a bit unnecessary, and I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster seems unnecessary. I mean, at least in my book. I would be more open to seeing a remaster of Infamous 1 or 2, or the Sly Cooper, or the Jak and Daxter series, or Killzone, or the Resistance series, and say something like, basically something like this, basically Horizon Zero Dawn and all. So I really felt like them announcing this remaster just seemed unnecessary in my book. Excuse me. And next thing is that the PS5 Pro definitely made an appearance during the state of play and everything like that. And it's like, I really didn't think that was necessary, considering it had its own presentation and so forth. So I really didn't think the PS5 Pro really needed to be shown during this state of play and all. And finally, I felt like I mentioned before, this was definitely one of their better state of plays, but not as good as like the June Xbox Showcase or the Nintendo Direct. And I felt like those had really stuff that was like, wow, and kind of surprised me. This one, I would say, outside of Ghost of Yotei or the Lunar Remaster or the Legacy 1 or 2, this one just wasn't nearly as there as compared to the Xbox Showcase or the Nintendo Direct. Overall, as I mentioned before, I do think that this is definitely one of Sony's better state of plays and everything like that. It's not perfect, but there were some pretty neat announcements that they did have over there, as I mentioned before. Stuff like Midnight Walk, and I do think the highlights to me were Legacy 1 and 2 getting the remaster treatment, Lunar getting a remaster treatment, and really closing it out with Ghosts of Yotei. So I do think there were some positive out of this direct, though. But this state of play. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it was at the scale that, as I mentioned before, Xbox Showcase and Nintendo Direct were in June. I still want to hear more information about the Nier Automata crossover with Stellar Blade. And I really felt it was unnecessary to show more information about the PS5 Pro or have a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster. I just feel like those things were just unnecessary, at least in my book. But again, this was an okay state of play, though. As I said, definitely one of their better state of plays, but not as good as the Xbox Showcase or Nintendo Direct, as I mentioned before, in June and everything. Okay, so this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this information about Concord, ranging from, about costing $400 million to them toxic positivity and all like that? Do you think the fact that they spend that amount was just outrageous? Do you think Concord was really unnecessary to happen in the first place? And do you think that Sony's going to have to reevaluate and rethink their strategy after seeing how Concord was like a big flop for them? What are your thoughts about the Xbox handheld rumor, though? Do you think that we will see a handheld from Xbox for the next generation? Do you think it could work? Do you think Microsoft is going to be able to pull it off? And if a handheld does exist from Xbox, what do you want to see from them, to be exact? What do you think about the situation surrounding Ubisoft, though? Do you think that there needs to be a major overhaul to a lot of their strategy or to management in general? Do you think delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows to February 2025 was a smart move on Ubisoft's part? And what are your thoughts about this week's Sony State of Play? Do you think this was their best State of Play? Do you think this was good? Do you think it was okay? Did you think it was meh in any way? Did it meet your expectations or not? Do you agree with what I say in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.